This is CBC Vancouver News.
It feels so close to home, but at the same time it feels so far away.
Locals with connections to Hong Kong mourn those who died and those still missing in last week's high-rise inferno.
When we grieve, it is so hard to do it alone.
Plus, housing hospital workers.
Just having these available units here will actually ensure that people know that they can come and work and have a place to stay.
Anything we can do to make it easier and have control over the housing.
Oliver tries to attract frontline staff in the face of dozens of ER closures this year. And
so far I found this cocktail shaker.
taking one person's trash and turning it into another's treasure.
Things that aren't important to someone else can become brand new and important to another person.
The city of Chilliwack gets residents trading instead of trashing old stuff. Good evening, I'm Tanya Fletcher. Thanks for joining us. We begin in the Kootenays, where the cleanup continues east of Cranbrook after yesterday's train derailment. It caused a propane leak and forced the evacuation of some rural properties along the Kootenay River. One evacuee tells CBC News she was feeding her animals when responders arrived and told her family to leave immediately.
Yesterday morning we went out to feed some cows and there was a short train on the tracks parallel to our farm, and there was a fellow waving us down, and we walked out to talk to him, and he said we needed to get away as far as we could. There was a propane leak.
In total, 12 cars went off the tracks. Most were carrying wood products, but 3 tanker cars were loaded with propane. BC's Environment Ministry says most of the rail cars involved contain non-dangerous goods, and that lumber from one broken rail car wound up in the Kootenay River. It adds one propane car on land, not in the water, has been reported to be leaking. The rail company says repairs to the track are now finished and the corridor has reopened to railway traffic following safety inspections. The Transportation Safety Board is still investigating what might have caused the derailment. Well, it cleared a major political hurdle this week, and now the fight to get a pipeline built and the efforts to stop it are ramping up. Opposition against the Ottawa's deal with Alberta has not quieted down. Many First Nations leaders warn it would devastate their clean coastal waters. And as JP Tasker explains, some think the pushback could stall or perhaps even halt the project.
In northwest BC, opposition is growing over a new oil pipeline destined for the Pacific. A project coastal First Nations leaders fear could lead to a disastrous spill in these pristine waters.
If Canada gets this done, I will be gobsmacked.
This First Nations chief says there's little Ottawa can say or do to get her community on side.
Our nation has spoken about this more than 20 years ago. The tone hasn't changed, the opinion hasn't changed, and I think it would be very difficult to sit down and talk about that.
That opposition could stymie Prime Minister Mark Carney's landmark agreement with Alberta. Carney says he wants some Indigenous consent before pressing ahead with a bitumen pipeline to the coast.
There's no proponent, there's no route, there's no business plan.
The BC government is also doubling down.
The answer is no, and the reasons are this. There are better alternatives.
But there's little BC can do to stop this proposed pipeline from going ahead. The province's top court has previously ruled interprovincial projects like this are the sole jurisdiction of the federal government, a decision affirmed by the Supreme Court.
That coast belongs to all Canadians, and we have the right under our Constitution to use that coast to transport our goods to the world.
Alberta's energy minister is trying to persuade the naysayers, promising money and jobs for First Nations.
I don't know if you've been to northern BC recently, but those folks are not doing as well as other places in Canada.
Thank you very much.
The standing ovation in Calgary, a promising sign. Carney is calling the deal a win for national unity.
We will build big. We will build fast. We will build bold again.
Meanwhile, his environment minister insists the government hasn't given up on its climate goals.
We always knew that the targets that we had set for 2030 and 2035 were ambitious targets.
Stephen Guilbeault resigned from cabinet in protest over the Alberta deal. Other Liberal MPs over the weekend were downplaying the possibility of the pipeline ever getting built, citing First Nations opposition. Still, the Prime Minister seems committed to a project that could inject billions of dollars into the tariff-hit economy. JP Tasker, CBC News, Ottawa.
The massive blaze that tore through an apartment complex in Hong Kong earlier this week has struck a chord with many here at home. The death toll has now topped 140 and dozens more are still missing. Today, British Columbians with connections to Hong Kong gathered in Vancouver to honor them. Our Janella Hamilton has more.
A candlelight memorial forms at the steps of the Vancouver Art Gallery as a long line of people wait to lay flowers, honoring the victims of a deadly high-rise fire in Hong Kong.
There are a lot of Hong Kongers in Vancouver, and we're seeing a need for us to get together to hold space to remember them.
I think a lot of us are in shock, and we feel a sense of paralysis because it feels so close to home, but at the same time it feels so far away.
146 people have died, dozens are still missing. Investigators continue to comb through the rubble of what remains of the 7 burned out buildings in the district of Tai Po.
A lot of us feel grief and stuck and angry and sorrow.
Officials in Hong Kong say initial investigations show the fire started at a lower level scaffolding net of one of the buildings before spreading rapidly inside as foam panels caught fire and blew out windows. A number of people have been arrested in connection with the fire. Officials say they are investigating possible corruption and the use of unsafe materials during building renovations.
I think it's too early to kind of suggest where the investigation is going to go beyond at this point. They are collecting a lot of information. They're being very proactive at this point to get the timeline put together to find out the sequence of events that have occurred.
The fire is one of the deadliest in Hong Kong in nearly 80 years.
When we grieve, it is so hard to do it alone because we'll feel a lot more lonely in this deep emotion. But when we do it together, we know that people around us have the same feeling.
Some here say many questions remain as calls for accountability grow stronger, but coming together as a community helps.
From the crowds today, it's not only Hong Kongers, but we're also seeing, people of different cultures, right? Very much so, like the city that we live in Vancouver. And I think that brings a lot of comfort for us.
Janella Hamilton, CBC News, Vancouver.
As the Surrey Police Service marks its first anniversary, one mayoral candidate is promising to add 300 more officers to the force over the next 4 years.
The extortion crimes here in Surrey and other communities just reinforce on how important it is to feel safe in your neighborhood and in your community. Being afraid is no way to lead your life, and that applies to both families and businesses.
Surrey First Councillor Linda Annis says Surrey will be the first city in BC to reach 1 million residents and should be planning future policing needs accordingly. Municipal elections across the province are scheduled for October of next year. The Surrey Police Service currently has more than 1,000 employees and has responded to more than 100,000 calls in its first year of operation. The city of Chilliwack has turned to a community-driven event to keep waste out of the landfill. It's the first annual community-wide swap. As our Benit Brach explains, the free event gives all kinds of treasures a new life.
From clothes and books to tools, Chilliwack residents doing their part to keep goods out of the landfill. It's the first city-sponsored swap meet. The message, give what you don't need, take what you can use, and keep it out of the landfill.
It's something new, something interesting for people to participate in.
Almost 2/3 of the garbage currently sent to landfills in the region could be recycled or composted, according to the Fraser Valley Regional District.
Landfill has a limited amount of airspace, as all landfills do, and it's just really important that it be used for things that can't be reused or repurposed.
The event was inspired by similar events in Vancouver, encouraging people to rethink waste and give new life to gently used items.
So far I found this cocktail shaker. I found this decanter for my mom for Christmas. I thought that was really nice. I actually feel strongly that we should reduce our waste. I think there's definitely opportunity for more of these events.
You gotta hold it tight so that way it doesn't fall off. My brother used to wear a Santa Claus hat from like December 1st to December 31st religiously.
Now he's hoping to continue the tradition with his new find.
Oftentimes things that aren't important to someone else can become brand new and important to another person. So much of that can be put to use.
Finding interesting t-shirts. Somebody likes these things.
The city of Chilliwack says a 2021 curbside study found 978 metric tons of textiles are thrown away each year. That's equivalent to about 60 t-shirts per resident. And to do their part, visitors checked in with their donated goods, they got swap tickets, and for every accepted item, they received a ticket to select their new find, eventually allowing staff to track how many items are being diverted from the landfill. And for all the items that are left over, the city says they will be donated to local thrift stores and charitable organizations to make sure they too are reused. A look at what could have been waste, now new treasures. Benit Brach, CBC News, Chilliwack.
And taking you to the Okanagan now, one community is breaking ground on a possible new solution for repeated ER closures. Since January, the emergency department in Oliver has had to temporarily shut its doors more than 24 times. So the town is now building modular housing to help attract physicians and other healthcare professionals. Our Tiffany Goodwin has that story.
As shovels hit the ground, it's a new era of optimism in Oliver, BC, a community of around 5,000 people. In a few months, this site will house up to 4 healthcare workers.
Anything we can do to make it easier and have control over the housing instead of having to lean on VRBOs or B&Bs or hotels.
Oliver Mayor Martin Johansson says a lack of housing has affected recruitment.
We'll be able to use these units and target them toward the individuals that need them the most.
This year, Interior Health says the South Okanagan General Hospital closed its emergency department 30 times, diverting patients to the next nearest hospital in Penticton, a 45-minute drive away.
It's concerning, and if you've got a limited ability to be able to get to Penticton, that can be a problem, or if you've got an emergency where you need care immediately.
Many of the closures happened in the summer's peak tourist season when incoming healthcare staff struggled to find a place to stay.
This hospital serves a broad corridor, including Osoyoos and Oliver and points in between. And so just having these available units here will actually ensure that people know that they can come and work and have a place to stay. While excitement is strong, it's only one piece of the puzzle. The South Okanagan Similkameen Division of Family Practice says more needs to be done to boost rural incentives and improve physician work-life balance. Interior Health hopes this will reduce service disruptions.
The rural communities, it's especially hard because those physicians are on call for their patients and really all services. 24/7, really.
The modular housing units are expected to be built by March 2026. Tiffany Goodwin, CBC News, Penticton.
Well, that juicy lunchtime burger or steak for dinner may soon be out of reach thanks to record high beef prices. As the CBC's Shelley Joyce is finding out, the searing market is showing no sign of cooling down.
The price of beef has hit an all-time high. For these guys, the big lunchtime burger is still a treat they're willing to splurge on.
Unlikely to stop me from eating a burger. Yeah.
But for some folks, the price hike could mean filling up on cheaper kinds of protein.
Too much, too rich for my blood. The farthest I go is ground beef, and I'll go with the lean, not the extra lean, because it's just too high. And you know, for what you get, it's way too high. I'm amazed. I'm shocked.
In September of this year, Canadian retail beef prices, reported by Statistics Canada, averaged around $25.90 a kilogram. That's up 4% from last September and up 26% from the 5-year average.
It's gone up drastically, and to be honest, I think it's going to keep going up with the way the market's going.
Which is tough on consumers, but good news for family-owned ranches reaping the rewards. Mike Devick is 37 and part of the extended family that runs Devick's Ranch in the Heffley-Lewis Creek area north of Kamloops. They diversified their cow-calf operation to include a feedlot and this busy butcher shop and meat processing facility on site. The ranch started in 1906. Today, the labor is shared between 3 brothers, 2 cousins, a dad, and an uncle. Like all ranchers, they've seen tough times, which makes their current success especially sweet.
Mad Cow was a time where money was really tight. There was basically no market. You were damn near just about giving cattle away. And then that was a tough time for quite a few years after that. And then I know it was a little bit before my time in the 80s when interest rates were up in the high teens, almost to 20%. I know my parents just about had to sell the whole ranch because you couldn't make payments.
Those struggles that include fires, floods, and drought are part of the reason why a lot of ranchers can't convince their kids to take over the reins.
It's a lot of hard work, and I think they've seen their parents probably how much time they spend working and how little money they might make. So they've pursued different careers.
That lack of succession planning is part of why the cost of beef is so high. Many older ranchers are getting out of the business. Paul Devick, Mike's dad, is 69, a third-generation rancher. He explains the sky-high cost of beef this way.
Supply and demand. Supply's down, demand is still fairly strong, and so prices are high. It's never been this high before.
With prices high and no one to take over, some of these older ranchers are cashing out.
Why not sell on a high note and maximize your capital assets, and so I think if I was didn't have a succession plan for the next generation, I'd be selling now as well.
Fewer ranches, less cows, higher prices, and more demand, which means a grilled porterhouse on the weekend may become an occasional but even more coveted treat.
Yeah, worth every bite, every penny. Just keep enjoying it in moderation.
Shelley Joyce, CBC News, Kamloops.
Still ahead on the eve of World AIDS Day, conversations around big cuts to global funding and how the United Nations goal of eradicating HIV as public health crisis by 2030 feels more and more out of reach. That's next. Stay with us. Welcome back. Monday marks World AIDS Day, and many conversations are centered around big cuts to global funding. The CBC's Philippe de Montenay starts us off in Canada, where activists say the care needed here is also being shortchanged.
The access to HIV medication was difficult in Venezuela. So this is
Ower Alberto moved to Canada in 2014 so he could receive life-saving treatment.
something that caused me a lot of stress is just to pass the HIV to other folks.
Now he helps other HIV-positive folks access care in a country where government funding for HIV groups hasn't grown in decades. Canada's oldest, the AIDS Committee of Toronto, will close down in March after 42 years of public education and handing out condoms.
ACT has been in a deficit budget for over 5 years, and it came to a point where our deficit budgets were no longer going to be sustainable.
Despite an uptick in new HIV infections in 2023, this expert says Canada has all the tools it needs to control the virus domestically. He says prevention is key. Drugs like PrEP, which people can take daily to protect themselves, now have injectable options taken once every few months.
Canada is doing pretty good, but we don't live in a vacuum. Okay? We're living in an era now where the carpet has been pulled out from underneath us from a global standpoint.
The United States, which accounted for 3/4 of global HIV funding, cut it off completely earlier this year.
Clinics closed without warning, and life-saving testing, treatment, and prevention services experienced widespread and continuing disruption.
Countries like Canada have committed to the UN goal of eradicating HIV as a public health crisis by 2030.
And yet, unfortunately, most of the G7 countries, including Canada, have decided to roll back their funding.
For many, that UN goal feels further out of reach.
I don't feel confident at all. And I think we're going to see like a high rise of new infections of HIV.
Philippe de Montigny, CBC News, Toronto.
A recently uncovered painting from the 17th century has fetched a king's ransom at auction in France. Christ on the Cross was first believed to be one of many works of the time, copying Baroque master Peter Paul Rubens. But an auctioneer had a hunch, and analysis determined the artist was Rubens himself. Among the findings, pigments that matched a Rubens technique. Now, when first discovered, the painting was valued around 10,000 euros. The auction selling price, $2.3 million. Well, this was Whistler's Olympic Plaza this evening. Lots of people out on the skating rink there, and we have enjoyed a dry weekend, even a bit of sunshine here and there, but don't get too used to it. I'll time out the return of the rain coming up next.
Hi, I'm Amy Bell, and this is your CBC Inbox.
On Friday, December 5th, start a new holiday tradition at CBC's Make the Season Kind in support of local food banks across BC. Come down to the CBC Outdoor Plaza where we're celebrating all things kind, from karaoke to a 5K run, plus exclusive treats, selfies, and more. For all the details and to find out how you can give, visit cbc.ca/kindbc.
And let's take a look at that long-range forecast. We'll start with satellite radar, looking at that precipitation that is set to return. We've had a nice dry and mainly clear weekend, especially along the south coast, a nice break from the rain. But here's that next system. That ridge of high pressure will break down. You can see the rain start to hit the north coast and move to snow as it transitions eastward over the interior, up north, all the way down to the south. But that should just translate to some spotty showers, at least for many areas tomorrow and the next few days. Again, snow if those temperatures get below zero. As we see, they are hovering right around that freezing mark through many areas. But then looking tomorrow for Vancouver and in fact for the rest of the week, pretty seasonal. We are a bit chillier than we've been used to, 6-7 degrees for our high. Those overnight lows getting quite close to the freezing level, but at this point still above zero. So a chance of some snow showers perhaps overnight. But again, just kind of some off and on rain to start your week, and will continue right through till Friday. And that's your late news for this Sunday, November 30th. For news anytime, anywhere, download our free app. You can always find us online as well. We're at cbc.ca/BC. Your next local newscast is on the early edition. That starts tomorrow morning at 5 o'clock on CBC Radio 1. Thank you so much for watching this weekend. Good night.